Okay, so a couple of important notes as we come into the start of this video. Obviously, this is another review of Transformers Prime. I'm really close to the end of this. I just kind of want it to be done, frankly. And also, I enjoy this final arc a lot, for the most part. So that's what we're going to be covering for a while now. I'm going to be recording all these at once, or at least maybe all but the movie all at once. So they should be coming out pretty quick. Also, you may have noticed that my voice sounds a little weird, and also I am doing that thing I said I might do, where I'm using the cartoon avatar again, at least for the time being. Remember those broken teeth that I talked about? As to why I might be using the cartoon avatar for a little while? Well, one of them has gotten significantly worse. Again, I'm not going to show you guys because it's real gross, but one of them got infected, and I'm dealing with it, but it's slow going, and I look real bad right now. I honestly probably shouldn't even be talking this much, considering how much pain I'm in, but I'm pushing through it because I really want to get these videos done. But yeah, for the time being, I am going to be using the cartoon avatar for basically everything, which means anything that requires like a reaction from me probably isn't going to be happening for a while. Though on the bright side, the fact that I'm using the cartoon avatar means that I can record these voiceovers entirely naked if I want to. Not that I would, or currently am, but just, you know, I could. And YouTube wouldn't even know. You guys would know, though. You'd be able to tell. I believe in you. That said, today we're talking about the Transformers Prime episode, Persuasion, which I would have titled Decepticon. Only like 2 words. But apparently I'm more clever than the writers of this episode, which also sadly shines through in the episode itself. Because while the previous episode was a really good transitional episode leading up into the final few episodes of this arc, this one's not. This is also very much a transitional episode. This is also very much less building up to the new status quo and more establishing it for us, since this is the episode where Ratchet is, as the title suggests, persuaded to work with the Decepticons to stabilize Synthetic Energon. But, man, aside from that, which is pretty good, seeing Megatron work Ratchet like that, to the point that Ratchet actually agrees to work with him, was good. The voice acting was top-notch, the character dynamics were great, but for the most part, everybody else makes just really, really bad decisions throughout this entire episode. I mean, hell, even Megatron, who's in top form for the most part in this episode, makes some really stupid decisions throughout the course of this episode. Because remember where the previous episode ended off, with Soundwave incapacitating Ratchet so he can take him back to the Nemesis. But recall that in doing that, he incapacitated first 2 of the other Autobots and their most important human ally. A human ally who, with the right gear, has been shown to actually stand up to Cybertronians himself before. And he didn't finish them off. He left them alive. And like, I don't want those characters to die or anything, just like all the times I question the Autobots not double tapping their opponents when they knock them to the ground. I didn't really want those Decepticon characters to die either. But it's absolutely ludicrous, especially considering that this is the Decepticons we're talking about, that they would leave 2 very powerful Autobots and an important ally alive when they had the chance to do something about that. And at first the episode seems to suggest that they left the Autobots alive on purpose. Like one of the things they were going to do to incentivize Ratchet to work with them was like show him a live feed of the Autobot base to show that the Autobots are being left alive despite the fact that the Decepticons know where they live now. Because Megatron literally threatens Ratchet with the destruction of his friends. But then no, he just tells Starscream to take his armada and go kill him anyway. And this is after when Ultra Magnus and his team actually managed to stop Shockwave and the Viacons from getting the device they were after. Megatron recalls Predaking from dealing the killing blow against Optimus to come and help secure the device. Even though he had Optimus dead to rights, it's one of those situations where he just had to shoot him before he moved on. And he didn't. And why exactly? Because the Autobots had stopped Shockwave from leaving with the device? Like, what were they going to do? Were they going to take it themselves? Like, I highly doubt that, right? Predaking definitely had time to finish Optimus off. And frankly, he should be the priority. Unless Megatron had reason to believe that the Autobots would destroy, what was it, a particle accelerator or something? Like a collider or something? Unless he had reason to think that the Autobots would risk destroying something like that to keep it away from him, Optimus should have been his immediate priority, because worst case scenario, the Autobots would have just moved it. And then Megatron could find it again and secure it later. Because, like, what if Optimus gets really fed up with this entire situation and is just like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to divert every single one of my team's resources to finding the Nemesis long enough for me to just open up the Matrix on it and vaporize all of the Decepticons at once. Like, that's a thing he can do. He should be the priority all the time until that threat is removed. But I guess it was the Decepticons' turn to hold the idiot ball for a while, since the Autobots have had possession of it for a while now, on and off. In fact, it's the Autobots who are really smart in this episode. Even though they had no way of knowing that this would be the case, they assume that when the Decepticons come to destroy their base, now that they know where it is, they'll just target that one building instead of the entire complex, and that whichever Decepticons come will just look at the markings on the buildings instead of, like, using a map to attack the one in the correct spot. And so they repaint the buildings to make it look like, what was it, Hangar E, I think is the one that they're in, is a different building than what it actually is. So now the Decepticons think the Autobots are dead. And, like, yeah, there is no reason why the Decepticons should have been so stupid as to do that. They really should have just blown up the entire complex, to be sure. But if we assume that there is some in-universe reason why they would make this unfathomably bonkers choice, the Autobots did anticipate it and found a workaround. And when they realized that a chunk that Smokescreen shot off of Laserbeak in the previous episode is part of his transponder, they have the brilliant idea to build a wingsuit for it, basically, so that it can try to return to the Nemesis and they can follow it, leading them back to the Decepticon base. We even, finally, after quite a while, get some development for the human characters. It turns out Raph has been learning Cybertronian code from Ratchet in their spare time, so he's able to take over some of Ratchet's duties. And meanwhile, Fowler and his organization are actively recruiting Jack to join them, which is just a fantastic idea. They're also looking into reproducing Miko's armor, which frankly is something they should have done a long time ago, but it's good to see that they're actually doing it. Every bit of that makes sense, and it's all stuff happening on the human side, which we don't get enough of anymore. Overall, though, the best part of this episode really is the interaction between Ratchet and Megatron throughout, which, it's hard to describe it. Like, I can't just summarize it for you and you'll get the point, but just take my word for it that it's really good. The acting is superb, the animation's excellent. It's just really fun to watch. Megatron really earns the title Decepticon here. And in the end, he is intelligent enough to correctly predict that regardless of how strong his convictions are, Ratchet will not be able to pass up the opportunity to work with the Decepticons if it means using their resources to perfect this formula and maybe restore their world. Which is where the episode ends. He reveals that they have already rebuilt the Omega Lock in a larger, cruder form. I think it's supposed to be larger than I don't know. Point is, they built it directly into the Nemesis. And seeing that and hearing all of the specific details that he's heard throughout the discussion, and getting a good look at all of the Decepticons' scientific facilities, at things that he never even dreamed of having the chance to use, things that could skyrocket the potential of his research, he can't help himself. It's a really fantastic scene, and a great way to punctuate this episode. I just wish the rest of the episode had been anywhere nearly as good as this. It's not awful or anything, it's not like it's painful to watch, it's just, we're back to a lot of these characters making absolutely baffling choices. And in a show that has proven itself to be so smart, at least some of the time, it's really frustrating to see it so stupid. And it's not as if you could even argue that the Decepticons didn't think they had time to double tap Bulkhead and Smokescreen and Fowler, because we saw in real time that the fight against the Autobots for possession of that device to power the Omega Lock, again, I don't remember what it was, we saw all that happen in real time, and it's not like the Decepticons didn't know that that battle was still happening, because they were a part of it. I don't know, it surprises me. In an episode where Megatron is shown to be so competent, it frustrates me to also see him act just so freaking dumb. And like Starscream, I can buy him being stupid enough to think that blowing up one building means that he's automatically killed the Autobots, that they never could have guessed that just because the Decepticons know where their base is, the Decepticons might attack their base. But, like, he was sent there by Megatron. Megatron should have been smart enough to realize that that might not be true, and to tell him otherwise. It annoys me. I don't really know what else to say about it. It does, you know? Honestly, if it weren't for all that Ratchet stuff, I'd basically say you could give this one a pass if you're watching this final arc. But the Ratchet and Megatron stuff is just too good. It's hard to call this one a skip. As per usual, though, I'd like to know what do you guys think of the Transformers Prime episode Persuasion. We're really close to the end now, guys. This is endgame stuff, and regardless of whether or not I think these characters could be making better choices, they're doing a great job of setting up that endgame. I still would have done stuff about it differently, and we'll talk about that as we go, but they're doing a great job of setting it up, and it's pretty enjoyable for what it is, which again, we'll talk about as we go. So, kind of more so than ever throughout the course of this review series, I really am curious to know what you guys think of this episode, and the other episodes around it. So let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, and while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out the links in the description of this video, including the links to my first 2 novels, which are currently available for purchase. In the meantime, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.